You know how you feeling? You look great. You look better than I do. And I would ask Councilman Aquafina to lead us in a flag salute, please. In English.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to ask for one adjustment up here on the dais, if possible. I'd like you to flip. You sure? Because I had asked for that.
In January.
Okay, well, we'll do it the next meeting. Okay. So, I gotta read this little thing we have here. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in Borough Hall, by email to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to the same, as provided by law, of a schedule, the date and time of this meeting. I'd like to remind all the members of the public that we have 3 fire exits, one back there, one over here, and one there. Hopefully we won't have to use those. And that's where they are. In addition, I'd like to remind everybody that they're being recorded by both audio and video, and we're creating a public record of the meeting for that purpose. If any member of the public wishes to be recorded or heard, they need only identify themselves by stating their full name and address for the record, and they may make a statement or ask any questions. Roll call, please. Yes, that's you.
So sorry, I was
That's okay. You
unaware.
should have a
It's
copy.
It's been a little while.
Uh,
I don't.
Maybe it's in my file here. If not, then we'll do it as we go. Why don't you make up a sheet, but the clerk
Yeah.
should have had it for you.
I don't see it. I apologize.
That's okay. So why don't you just make one up here?
Yeah,
And we'll
let me do
go
that.
down there. So you've got Miss Ellen Boland. Eileen Boland.
Yeah.
That would just ask me about it.
Oh, okay. Everybody here's so on here.
Perfect.
All right. Mayor Mignon,
Here.
Councilman Aquafreda,
Present.
James Arakelian,
Here?
Eileen Boland. Here. Dr. Gerwitz,
He usually comes in a little bit late.
Richard Merriman,
Here.
Lou Grasso,
Here.
John Monroe, Chris Caslin,
Here.
Michael Craig.
Mr. Monroe had sent me an email today. He's excused. He had some business he had to attend to and couldn't make it.
Mr. Councilman.
Yes. Why don't you come on up? Yeah, you want to go by? Yeah, good.
Here.
And also our engineer had a conflict this evening, and being that I didn't feel we really needed him for the historic or for just a application completeness, I excused him as well. Okay, so we're going to go to approval of the minutes. Should be in these packets somewhere here. It's historic. I couldn't see those either.
Did everybody receive them outside of tonight's meeting?
Yeah, everybody did get an email copy. I did ask our clerk to make copies, hard copies for us.
Okay.
So I'll just remind him next time to please do that.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to, what's the board's pleasure? You want to go ahead with what we have, or we can table it for the next meeting?
Well, I think they're outstanding minutes, and I didn't see any problems, so,
Everybody had the opportunity to review them? Any changes?
well, if you want a motion, I'll give you,
I'll take that.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Would have had to be the next letter. Ms. Boland? Okay.
Mayor Mignon,
Abstain, I was not here.
Councilman Eccleston,
Abstain, I was not present.
Mr. Arakelian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan.
Yes. Okay. Motion passed. Our next order of business is memorializations. We've got 3 of them. We'll go in order here. Broderick, that's 65 East Route 4. It was for 2 signs. You should have again gotten the memorialization in the email, and I believe that we have copies up here for that. That's Lozier. Oh, here they are. All right, so any comments on the memorialization resolution?
No comments on my part.
Okay, being no comments, do I have a motion to approve?
So me.
That was in that it was subject to,
It's
Some
all
of the
in here,
comments,
yep.
Barron's.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's in the inspections after 6 months, yeah.
All the conditions are there. Second?
Second.
I'm sorry, your name was? I apologize. Okay, Mayor Mignon,
Abstain?
Councilman Eccleston,
Abstain.
Mr. Arakelian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan.
Yes. You know what? Pass the next one over to you. Okay, going in order, that's 175 Lozier Terrace.
I had a comment on that, Mr. Chairman. You go to the last page,
Certainly. Mm-hmm.
I don't think Ed Adler's our secretary. Well,
He is
Dr.
not.
Jeffrey is signing as
Mhm.
secretary.
Yep, so they have the right name here. But
Yeah,
that's
it's
a good
correct,
catch.
yeah. And there was a matter of an open or revised drawing to be received.
We did.
It has been received?
I believe it has, yes.
Okay. And somebody looked at it?
I believe it was dropped off downstairs, and it may be in our packets as we look.
Okay, because is there?
Yeah. He definitely sent revised plans, and it took out the...
Can I look at it quickly?
Yeah, you know what, I have it, I think.
Who was delegated the responsibility to review it? Was it an engineering issue or was it something else?
It was a site plan,
It wasn't a site plan, it was just
they were moving the pool in a patio.
right. But I think it was a zoning issue, not a planning issue.
Okay. Want to have any comments?
To be honest, that was not an application that
Okay.
they wanted.
That's correct.
I'm somewhat familiar with the issue, but
Mhm.
I haven't reviewed the plans personally.
All right. For the record, the swimming pool and the paver, associated pavers have been removed on this
Which is
document.
what was asked for.
Correct.
Okay. You should have a copy
Oh,
in
let
your
me see the
file
curb
there.
cut. Well, yeah, the curb cut's supposed to go back to 20 feet. Yeah, he shows us 3 out.
Okay, so we're good on that?
Yes, my comments are satisfied.
Okay. Anybody else? No more comments? Entertain a motion to approve. Mr. Merman,
So, man,
have a second? I think somebody was here. Yep,
Second.
Ms. Bowen. Roll call, please.
Mayor Mignon,
Abstain?
Councilman Eccleston,
Abstain.
Mr. Arakelian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
yes,
Mr. Grasso,
I'd recuse myself on that matter because I own the home across the street.
and Mr. Kaplan.
Yes. All right, so I'm gonna leave these two with you, because these are signed copies by me. So you have them.
So which is the second one we just did? That's working on the first one.
Okay, and last is, let's just skip over this, we don't need to take this tonight. This is 733 Williams Avenue, and this is Mr. Barron's. You could take a seat in the audience while we deal with this if you'd like. Of course, if anybody remembers from our last meeting, this is our professional planner's personal home. No, you don't have to sit there. You can sit back there.
Not unless you're gonna offer more testimony.
Everybody have an opportunity to review this. Again, you should have gotten an email, or Mr. Merman's allowed to pick it up from the office. Any questions?
I have a copy, and I'm satisfied with the resolution.
Anybody else? I have a motion to, here you can use the list here if you want. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I might look about 1,000, okay.
Mr. Merman?
me.
Mr. Caslin? And we'll take a roll for an opportunity.
Okay, so, Mr. Arakelian?
Yes.
Ms. Boland? Yes. Mr. Merman?
Yes.
Mr. Grasso?
Yes.
And Mr. Kessler?
Yes.
Good evening, Doctor. How are you tonight? The records show that Dr. Gerwitz has joined us at 7:45. You missed all the good stuff, Doc.
We'll tell you what we obligated you to do.
Before you leave, there's 3 things that you
To
need
sign.
to sign, okay?
Are
We'll
we
get it done.
are we in work or are we in?
We're in work session stuff. Well, I'll get it to you at the end. Okay, and, okay, so our next order of business is a application for completeness review. ILBJ LLC, 335 Johnson Avenue, Block 1405, Lot 3. This is for a major site plan approval and for new construction. And they have a possible D variance, but I believe it's been ruled on by our attorney that, and our engineer, that it probably will not need a D variance. But is the applicant here? Can you step forward, please?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I'd like to make a disclosure
Mm-hmm.
that I have worked with the back project architect on other projects together, but not for his office. We served the same client. And any monies came directly from that client.
Karen?
Okay, no direct connection with this particular applicant?
That's correct, no,
Okay, and do you feel that you can render determination impartially?
most definitely.
I don't have an issue.
I have no issue. Yes, would you have a...
No issue.
Okay. All right, perfect. You can have a seat.
As you notice, I'm a little disabled, or express myself as the healthiest cripple I know.
We want you to be comfortable, so you can sit, you can stand, however you want to be.
We're here at your pleasure. We had anticipated the hearing, but I understand there was a request made for site plan review. We're happy to participate. This is an exciting application in an area.
I'm just going to stop you for a second. I'm going to ask you to state your name and address for the record.
My name is Frank DeVito, D-E-V-I-T-O. My office is now in Moonachie, having lived in Hackensack for 33 years. 250 Moonachie Road, Suite 305 Moonachie. I've appeared before this good board before.
Yep, we met.
We've met.
And you're acting as their attorney this evening?
I'm acting as their attorney this evening.
Okay.
We'll be counsel to them through this project. I've been counsel to them in the past on a number of other projects that this could be the same.
Awesome, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions of me? It's probably a better question.
No,
Never mind.
you've been before the, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I would just defer to Mr. Barron. He did the...
I think he's asking if anybody had any questions about his qualifications or anything like that.
Okay.
We've been before the board before, that's your acceptable.
My comment about this is that this particular project is very exciting. I know that this area at one time was considered an area in need of redevelopment. I know that there's a couple spot lots. Across the street is Total Lawrence and Moore, which is a major significant improvement. I perceive that this particular project for this site shows commitment to this area, shows commitment to River Edge. What I would suggest is that, with your consent, that you declare my application complete. That doesn't mean anything more than that we'll proceed to a hearing. That you carry this meeting to a public work session, which I understand is hopefully scheduled for this Monday at 4.
It wouldn't be a work session. It's considered a site plan review committee with a limited number of members. Actually, the members of that committee are the three of us here, and our planner and the attorney and the engineer will be present.
That be carried on the record, and that you carry on the record this hearing now to another date on the record, so that depending on what transpires, you still have control. That's what I would recommend.
That's fair.
So I would just ask for a vote to declare the application complete, and then this would board make a determination as to when they would like to hear this matter. Somebody spread a rumor, I thought I heard November 7th. I don't know if that's accurate.
Next meeting will be the 9th.
I can't.
The 9th, it would be the 9th,
is
Thursday.
is a significant, substantial conflict for me and my architect. Is there a chance that we can do the 7th? Can we do a special meeting?
We can't do the 7th on a special meeting, but what my plan would be for this, and of course I have to run it past the board, but I would, because we run into November and our regular meeting falls on Thanksgiving, so I don't believe we'll be having a meeting that night. I would like to try to schedule a meeting for the Thursday before that, but I have to check everybody's schedule, and
That's the league.
it's a league of municipalities, so everybody be away for that.
What about November 13th?
The whole week's the league.
Let me just take a look at it. So, because I'm going down too, by the way, I'm seeing you. So the leagues are from the 13th to the 17th, is that correct?
Yeah.
And then the 23rd and
24th of Thanksgiving.
how about the 30th of November?
I can't be here, but if the rest of the board can, then I would.
How's everybody for the 30th?
Thursday?
That's a Thursday, yeah.
That's the,
5th Thursday.
okay. I'm fine.
Everybody good?
When is Thanksgiving?
23rd,
And that's our regular meeting.
it's the Thursday before.
So we can't do Mondays and Tuesdays because this is always taken. So I understand it pushes you back a little bit. I mean, I'll give you the option of having somebody fill in for you on the
Yeah, but
regular
I
meeting.
also lose my architect.
Okay. So
I can afford to lose one of us, but I can't afford to lose two of us.
that's what I can do for you.
It is what it is. It's the reality that we have to face with.
All right. So make a
11:30.
note that on November 30th we'll have a special meeting and it's be advertised and.
No, yes, but 11:30.
Yep, and that would be at 7:30 in the evening.
Would you so announce that, make a motion, so it's carried on the record, please?
Okay, let's get it complete first.
I can't make the 30th as well.
Okay.
I have to check. I'm not sure.
Okay. We need 5. I think we'll be okay.
I can make it.
Okay, so why don't you move forward a little bit and tell us a little bit about the project that you're planning.
The project is being developed by some very competent people who have done some significant development before. These are very responsible people. Financing tends not to be an issue for them. They're proposing to build a 2-story building. and it will be occupied by their offices now, which they occupy in Paramus, right off of Route 4. And it will also occupy an existing salon that is already operating in Paramus, which is owned by one of the principals. He needs another business like he needs a hole in his head, but he just happens to be the owner of one of the most successful salons in the state. So what they've decided to do is consolidate the two facilities. They're going to put the salon on the first level. Their principal offices will be on the second level. And if you've seen and I know you have, you've seen the elevation. It's a magnificent building. We're talking serious money into this particular project.
Farrell loves serious money.
There's serious money going into this. And because of the salon, the nature of this particular salon, very high end. And that's what's happening here. The variances are basically side yard and setback. There's not going to be a height variance.
Parking, correct?
Parking, it all depends upon how you define it. If you define it all as office, no. If you define it as retail, yes. There theoretically could be a parking variance by about 70 to 80. But it's a matter of interpretation. So my view of the world is, I'll take always a more conservative view. I'll assume it's a variance. I've advertised for it. No use playing that game. It is what it is. And I've advertised for all of the variances no matter what. If I don't need them, I don't need them. If I do, I do. The project itself is just a good project, an exciting project. And it's going to help stabilize, going further to more stabilize that location or that area which was at one time designated as an area, or attempted to be designated as an area in the development. The salon, which has been there now, it used to be Everly's Ski Shop about 30 years ago. If you all remember that, it's been the salon for about 25 or 30 years. It's a well-known fixture. It will become another well-known fixture for another 30 or 40 years with your consent. I have nothing more to offer other than to say it's the application, in my humble opinion, is complete. It deserves your review. I think you'll need to have an executive committee review, which is a good move. That's the way to do things. You can trash out the questions.
I appreciate your approval.
We were going to do it anyway, even if I didn't approve it.
For clarification, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this property never has been a redevelopment area.
No.
It was maybe part of a study, but it was never declared in need.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
There were two comments from our engineer that I'll just pass along to you informally now, and then we can talk more about it on Monday. One was that you only had on your plan one retention pit. He thought that might be deficient, so he would like to see something a little better done with the stormwater.
Okay.
And the second issue he brought up was, and I'm not exactly sure where this falls, but evidently there's a wooden fence along the property, and there may be some kind of bone of contention with that. He thought
We're actually working
with the neighbor.
Conversation with the neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
We're not hostile to each other. We both have the same interest. It's okay. Work.
Excellent. I always try to work that way.
For the record,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, that's not a wood fence, it's a retaining wall.
Okay, I didn't see it. I just got this phone call at 5 o'clock today.
Basically soldier beams driven into the ground with wood in between,
Okay.
functioning as a retaining wall.
But I understand, again, that you're hashing this out with your neighbors. So
Yeah,
that's
we have a common interest.
perfect.
And we perceive that by the time we get to you, everybody's going to be happy.
Question
Yes.
to the lawyer. As you said, it was determined it doesn't need a D variance. I was looking at the stuff we received. and I didn't see the building layout in relation to other buildings. I know there are laws in terms of the distance between buildings and the lot coverage based on the size of the lot. I can't remember the exact measurements off the top of my head. So I was just wondering, the lawyers came to that conclusion. I didn't see those measurements to determine that. So is that accurate, that you made that decision that a D wasn't needed based on, because I believe those fell into the D category when I was reading, but I may be
Well,
wrong?
the discussions with Mr. Chakowski, who is our regular board attorney, and our planner, was that even though it technically is a mixed-use building, because there's going to be professional and possibly retail, it doesn't really qualify because they're both accepted uses there.
Okay.
If there was a residential component, which we of course know there's not, and there probably never will be, then that would be different because it would be outside the zone. So this is going to be considered more of a planning application than a zoning application. I'm going to get into those later on in our work session, because I think we need to get back to the basics with zoning versus planning when they come before the board.
I just wasn't sure if this building fell into those zoning requirements, therefore requiring a D variance.
The distance between buildings, I believe in the ordinance pertains to residential buildings, and it wouldn't rise to the level of requiring a D variance for that type of zoning. That would be a bulk variance. It would be C variance.
So those measurements about like height and like coverage?
Well, height's a separate issue, and so that's one issue that we reviewed. I discussed it at length with Brian about, and really it's just the parapet exceeds 8 inches above what's permitted. And so if that variance is being requested, that would rise to the level of C variance, not a D6. As I had a question based on some inconsistencies in the plan, just whether or not that was an issue. Seems to be a C variance. The applicant has indicated that they meant just correct that and alleviate that issue altogether.
That's what I was wondering. I didn't know where it fell, and I wanted guidance.
So, no, it's a good question. But, so at this point, it looks like we are basically entertaining mostly bulk variances, signage variances, and parking variances. So all C variances.
All right, perfect.
Thank you.
All right, before I get to the board, let's continue on with Mr. Behrens.
Just in terms of required items, the applicant has pretty much submitted just about everything. The only few items that are left on the checklist that the board could potentially grant waivers for would be soil permits, sanitary flow calculations given the salon use, and not necessarily a checklist item, but it would be our recommendation that a market analysis be provided at some point, or at least testimony, the justification of the variance.
Do we have an idea how much soil is going to be moved?
I do not.
Because it would behoove you to do that concurrently, because if it's over a certain threshold, you need to come back.
Come back. It's 100 yards.
That's more than 100 yards.
There's some
considerable.
disturbance given the grading of the property, the sinking of the building.
So I would just suggest they look at that.
Yeah.
Let me address that. Let's assume for the sake of argument it's in excess of. I would prefer making a simultaneous application to it at the same time, so that I don't have to come back.
Yeah, you can amend your application. It's not going to hold up tonight.
I can amend that tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a separate application for soil?
Yes.
Or is it?
There is. There is.
Okay.
Yeah. The one other issue I want to clarify just with regard to the plan is that there seems to be some inconsistencies with regard to the yard setbacks and the coverage. The issue being that there's the principal building and the parking structure is attached to the principal building and essentially becomes part of that building. Therefore, the setbacks should adhere as the ordinance requires. They're not reflected as such in the zoning being put to mold, and so that should be amended at some point. And for instance, that will increase the level of setback relief being requested as well as building coverage.
And
So that'll have to be addressed.
my comment to that was, again, I'll take the more conservative position and consider the variance. I don't even want to guess at it. And I'll just ask for the side yard setbacks, or whatever they are.
Give me a complete. I mean, do we have all the paperwork to go on? That's all we're really doing right now.
Right. Yeah. I just going over some I guess some points that it's better to be ready for the next meeting than
Well, I just know I had mentioned some things in the memo, I just wanted
Mhm.
to clarify
Yep.
some other issues I'm comfortable with.
Everybody received his memo, either in email or? That's it? You good? Thank you, Mr. Barons. I'll go to the board. Is there any questions? Again, this is just for completeness, not anything else. All right, at this point,
Well, what waivers are they asking for? You had mentioned something about waivers.
Well, in terms of checklist items not having been provided, again, going back to soil permits, sanitary flow,
Those we can provide later.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, these are items.
But to Dr. Gerwitz's point, and I never got the full status of the site plans. If the adjacent buildings aren't shown by footprint, I think they should be, and the location of the driveways on either side.
And of course, you know that, and we brought up at the regular, on Monday, but you have to go along with the Barrow Streetscape plan. So you may want to provide a plan on that, for the meeting as well. Correct?
I think
Part of our streetscape area down
I would.
there? I'm sure they'll want to do it anyway, to be in conformance with everybody else.
It's not a,
We can address all of that on Monday. We can address it on Monday.
Yes, that'll be addressed on Monday.
Is the adjacent buildings, showing the footprint, is that a completeness item, checklist item?
was it
Top of my
was it
head,
survey?
To request, it's only a request.
Demolition. What survey?
There's no survey plan, it's a site plan.
Existing conditions? Yeah, last sheet.
Last sheet, yep. Okay, there you go. Johnson, bank, office building. Bank,
The
office
office
building.
building.
Well, this is their parking, across the street.
This is the office building here?
No,
Further back?
the office building by Marshall
yes,
is right here. This is the physical building, and this is the site with the parking. Is underneath and over here. That's to the south. To the north, you have the Hudson Bank. Well, not the Hudson Bank, the bank. Community. And across the street, you have the two medical buildings.
So the island's missing that.
But it's, no, it's right here.
Oh, no, that's the marginal road.
Yeah.
There's a big triangle right here, DOT property. It's still here.
Yeah, that's right there.
It's,
Let's see. No,
it forms part of,
this point right here, I think it's this point right here.
no, this is where it splits Route 4 and the marginal road. There's a big triangle right here, but you gotta go down this way.
Oh, this is it here.
Okay.
Here, Marshall Road's over here.
All right.
This is right there.
It's not relevant to this
Okay.
application.
All right. But he did show the building.
Are we good?
Yes, they're shown on, topographic survey, their drawing SD-1.
So the request to show the footprints is removed, which I thought that was.
We're looking at the drawing of basically, the existing,
Website.
site was the second one. Yes, so you got building, this piece of a building, and here's the other building.
And any driveways for that?
We didn't show the driveway, but I knew that.
I would just show the driveways on Johnson Avenue. For the driveways on Johnson Avenue for the other
Yes,
parcels?
yes.
If they're not on here.
Ins and outs on Johnson Avenue, any rest of English is showing in that.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Mervin, you good?
Yes, I'm good. We look forward to the site plan review committee.
I'll entertain a motion to deem this application complete.
Can you open up this public again,
We usually don't on a completeness, but if you,
We'll make it quick.
if you would like to be heard, please, motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed or abstained? Okay. Please say your name.
Timothy E. Corriston, law firm of Connell Foley, on behalf of 41 Grand Avenue LLC and the estate of Camarelli, with a neighboring property. We have been speaking, we're going to try to work out some issues. We're going to wait to see what the comments are at the site plan meeting with the town. The primary concern is the setback as it is to the building on 41 Grand Avenue. We retaining wall, we understand will be addressed, and we'll enter into some agreement regarding that. I understand they're going to reconstruct it. And so that's the primary issue, so I just want to make it.
All right, just so you're aware, when we have a site plan review committee meeting, it's simply with the applicant.
We understand.
Yeah, okay. You'll be able to make your objections, if any, at the open meeting on the 30th.
Right. So what I was referring to was after you have that meeting, we're going to discuss with the applicant what changes the town asked for and is requiring or what's being done, and then we'll try to work everything out.
We as a board always encourage the neighbors to talk and
Mr.
try to work
Carlson and
things
I know
out.
each other a long time. They've been hostile to each other. They ain't gonna start now.
Okay.
All right.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Carson, does your client own lot 1 also?
Excuse me?
Does your client own lot 1 also?
Can I see what the point for?
Parking lot?
Here's what I the empty lot.
This is here. If you look on this one.
So this is
Johnson Avenue here.
We're here,
This is me.
and we own this.
Okay, so it's the office building and then the empty lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he owns the lot.
1 and 2?
But it's, no, it's all 3 lots, or even this middle lot?
I don't know about this lot.
Which one's it? 1, 2, and 6?
Yes, it's the same. Bristol Associates.
So, but this is Johnson.
It has 4 and 1.
I think they surround him basically, except for the.
They wrapped him.
Lot 4 is shown as owned by 41 Grand Avenue LLC. Lot 1 is Bristol Associates.
It's all.
Can I see what they go on the map?
The area of concern is this.
Yes, but I'm looking at the whole,
So you own this one here,
and this one.
in the back.
He owns both of them,
Yes, and then the
yeah.
bank lot would.
This is the parking lot, this is that office building.
And then there was the bank, the other had, well, one of them was approved as a bank.
The back here.
Yes.
I'm aware of that, I
This is
approved
called a
it.
wine shop.
Yes,
Yes,
using this parking lot.
yes.
Been up here a long
There's
time.
room for bank there.
I know that, because I've been here a long time. 07.
That was
So you
2
own
o'clock
this
in the
one and
morning.
this one? No, you own this one and this one.
No, 1 and 4,
1 and
and
4.
6.
Hey, 2 o'clock in the morning, we can't.
Okay, let's
Done.
do
That was
There.
controllable.
Well, that's the same as Total One. The same owner.
There we go.
Yeah,
They
okay.
own this one.
Okay.
Leave it at that.
So we'll work together, and if you have any comments, we'll present them on the 30th.
I can't speak for the entire board, but I can speak for myself, that I always look forward to neighbors working together to work out the differences before they come up here and make it public.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask the applicant a question?
You can. Yes, sir.
Looking ahead, are you planning on presenting any traffic testimony?
This is an approved use. Theoretically, it should not have a traffic component, because those are the uses are approved. There was a request I heard for parking analysis.
Right.
That's a different issue. But traffic was not,
I was really looking for a yes or no answer.
I think that we could, let's get into this
No, okay,
on
I'm
Monday.
just curious, all right.
Right now, what we want to make sure is that he's got all his paperwork in, and he obviously does. So at that point, if there's no other questions from the board? I'll entertain a motion to approve the applicant being complete. Have a motion?
Subject to the waivers.
Subject to the waivers, yes,
And date extension.
and the date extension. Correct?
The date extension being
November 30th,
November 30th, 2017, should be carrying this public hearing to that date.
until 7:30 at night, yep,
Without further notice.
without further notice.
That's what
Yeah.
thank you, guys.
So I'll make the motion.
Mr. Berman, do I have a second? Roll call, please.
Mayor Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Knuckles Credit?
Yes.
Mr. Arakelian?
Yes.
Ms. Boland?
Yes.
Mr. Merman?
Yes.
Mr. Grasso?
Yes.
Mr. Cap?
Yes.
All right, I will
Motion
see
passed.
we
We'll
will
see you then. On Monday.
On Monday.
You're
at 4
available.
o'clock.
Can I vote?
I didn't know, what time?
Can I vote?
Did I not call you?
That's what happens when you come late.
Yeah, I can do it.
Right.
I have no control over
Sorry.
that. That's okay.
Sometime.
I wanted to actually make sure you had me marked as here.
No,
I'm telling
yeah.
him, if he sends it to that
I will now.
different
Thank you.
format of the email,
Sorry.
I don't get it.
That's okay.
I'll
I was
I
late.
told him, no, I told him,
No matter how hard I tried.
Good evening. Okay, 4 o'clock. Of course, with this mound of paperwork. All right, before we go into the regular meeting to get to the
If you have
historic
one more-
Wait,
preservation-
do we have one other completeness?
Yep.
Tarek?
Tarek.
Okay.
No, I thought we did the completeness.
no, it's a
Oh,
second.
you got second page.
This is the thing.
Here's her page.
Yep.
Oh, okay, I was just getting here now.
You wanted to make a statement.
Oh, okay, Tarek, that's great. Okay, for the second completeness application, this is, and I expected our zoning officer to be here for this, but I guess miscommunication. This is for Tarek, okay, and it's 364 Lee Avenue, block 1002, lot 54. He's looking for a 6-foot-high white vinyl fence. And this application was brought before us back in June and somehow just resurfaced. So the applicant obviously is not here. So what's everybody's pleasure here? You want to, I mean, it's just a fence.
What is the
Well, this is for
variance requested?
completeness.
Is for what? For height or?
It's height because it's forward of the,
Oh,
yes,
to
from the front yard, it's forward of the building line. No.
Was 4 feet is allowed?
This,
3 feet?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
There's a little confusion on my part.
Okay.
The application, I believe, says 6-foot high fence. There's a pre-existing 6-foot high vinyl fence there now. Number 2, I've got a diagram that was found its way into my package, which shows 3-foot high fences also, and an undescribed line marked along the front boundary.
I don't know why I don't have it. Sure.
Here, oh, yeah, what was that you had in your hand? Yeah. So, I'm not ready to even consider this approved until this is clarified.
Yeah, I don't know why the applicant's not
All
here,
right?
but being that he's not here, I would say let's table this for the,
And somebody notify the applicant, please, that,
And actually, I have a note here from Mr. Jakowski, the applicant retained, an attorney, Mr. Tuvell, so he can be notified of the questions that you have and answer your questions.
Do we know, you may know this off the top of your head, obviously, we must have a setback requirement from the property line for a fence. or no?
Off the top of my head, I don't believe it's 10 feet along the property line per se. But again, it's not, I can tell you that.
No, I mean, since we're not doing it anyway. I'm just saying if there is, there's no,
so,
you know, I understand this is a resident and they just have a dashed line, and if it's, maybe an offset and it's not
They need to-
delineated, then we don't
yeah,
know.
Exactly.
There's a little more clarification.
you mentioned last June, I see a date on here, June 9th, 16. This note he's got on here, the fences were approved.
I see that, but
Yeah.
they've never, he's never been before us. I don't know what that
All right,
means.
all right.
It looks like it's pointed at the chain link fence.
Couldn't have been if the zoning board approved it, since it might have just been a
It
variance.
could have, because.
They weren't here in June.
Okay.
Oh, it's June 16, so
Yeah.
a year ago.
I mean, if all they
Board may-
needed was a
the
variance,
board may have.
the zoning board might have.
Mr. Chair, can
Well, that
we
could be another
have-
clarification.
Can we have our clerk research if there is an approval?
Well, it's gotta be in the application.
I don't think it really matters, because he's looking. to
Well, it does
change
matter if
the
you get
right?
variance, it does matter. You still need if there was a previous approval on the site.
Right.
It looks like
Can
it's
you
in a
make a
different
note of that, so
location.
Brian can call him?
Well, it's usually in the application.
6 foot
No,
portion
see,
is
now,
in
he
a
said
different
they didn't fill it in. It said,
And he's got
in the
colors.
previous application
No,
appeals.
there's stuff inside.
Yeah.
And he's got color
And that was
markings on
probably
a
done by the
drawing
property owner.
with photocopies.
They
I
did
don't
it
know what's
right.
orange
Yes.
and what's yellow.
Yeah. Well,
I
when
don't
you
know
go
why I
out there,
don't have
yeah.
that.
Don't worry, I have it either.
Motion to table.
Yeah.
Now, what I suggest we do is make a motion in a second to not deem the application complete and ask that the applicant provide clarifications
Mhm.
that we're asking for. So, Mr. Merman, if you could just articulate your first
Okay.
clarification. Yes?
Before I do that, does the planner have any comment?
He doesn't act on these applications.
You don't act on these, okay, that's fine.
So we're going to ask that the applicant, and I'll have Brian look into this
There-
as well, but whether or not the
there
fence
is
is
be-
approved.
There is before us a markup of a property survey
Mhm.
that has further been marked by magic markers or felt tip pens with indications of 6-foot-high fences and 3-foot-high fences, plus additional markings along the front boundary line of Lee, Fenway, and Howland. We need clarifications of what they represent, number one, and what the applicant is requesting overall.
You have that application, can I just see it for a second? Or Ed, you have the application?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, I do have it.
Mayor, to answer your question, just, the ordinance just says all fences must be erected within the property line, so it doesn't give us specific.
While you're looking,
Yeah.
is there any, I think I know the answer, is there any requirement or dimension for minimum sight distance at corners for fences or other landscape or installations?
Well, there is as a general proposition, there is that.
Okay.
All right, so looking at the application, it appears that what the applicant is trying to accomplish
It's
is to
unknown.
replace the existing fence that he has
No.
and extend it
That's what he says.
to a 6-foot high white vinyl, I'm sorry, not white, 6-foot high vinyl fence. So he wants to change the fence from what he has.
So your interpretation is we're gonna take out the 6-foot-high vinyl that encloses the rear yard, and simply replace it with a 3-foot-high.
No, with a 6-foot high. Replace the 3-foot with 6-foot.
The back property is chain link. Look at the
No,
survey.
there is vinyl here.
Well, I'm looking at the survey, it's chain link here.
Well, then the survey's wrong, because I live in the neighborhood. I drive past it
Chain link
18
fence.
times a day.
They made a statement in the application, they want to extend the existing fence,
Yeah.
not a replacement per se.
Well, maybe, all right, then
See,
extend.
see, that's
No,
my whole
they-
point.
but
There is
They're showing-
confusion with
they're
this
They're
application.
showing this dashed line.
Yeah, he shows you that dash line, then he shows you this.
All right, well,
But it's
And then
showing.
he shows you,
This
what
what
is
he's
this?
showing. That's the setback line.
No, but he colored.
I know, but that's, I think that's.
I'm not going anywhere, he stands in front of me.
I was just going to make that recommendation, that not only these be clarified, but that he's here at the next meeting.
yeah, he should be here. I have a motion to not approve this as, I'm sorry, Mr. Aquafina.
Why are we doing this to ourselves, punishing ourselves, trying to interpret?
No,
No, I agree,
Piece of-
the applicant
pieces of
should be
paper.
here.
Why can't we just ask the applicant to retain a professional that can clearly depict on one sheet what the scope of the work is?
Basically what I said.
No,
Yeah, but you know, but.
no, your interpretation differs from ours. So why do you want to do this? We asked the
But
applicant.
I don't know if
submit
I
a
would want to put a
drawings that
resident
show
or a
that- submit a
financial.
drawing.
Yeah, but
Let me just,
Clearly
he's
marked
already,
site
he's already
plan.
notified us that he had retained an attorney. The attorney should have come tonight for this application to be deemed complete, so we can answer any questions that the board has. He's not here, his attorney's not here, as far as I'm concerned, we can't answer questions that we have. Let's just put it off, we'll have the clerk or our attorney contact their attorney and let them know that he's gotta be here for the next meeting, which is on
The
the
9th, you're gonna do
the
it?
9th of November.
What
So we'll carry
matters
this to the
is what they tell us on, once they're sworn in or whatever, not what our interpretation is of a sketch
correct.
that's supposed
And
to
we-
be in
and we-
color.
And
but
we
it's
can't
in black
interpret
and
what he's
white.
looking to accomplish here because it's too vague.
Yes.
Yep.
He hired an attorney, let him hire a professional to do part B of.
Well, you
think
can't
we're all on the
you
same
can't
page.
make a resident do that.
That's,
But he,
No, that's not the,
That's-
I'm saying in this application, I don't know if it's necessarily needed. I think if they clarify, I think.
Yeah, it's just a
we'll have
fact.
enough information.
clarify.
But,
And if you're not happy with the clarification, you
Then-
can
then we
always ask
certainly
for
can answer
additional
that.
information at that point.
because the property survey should have been updated.
Okay, so you want me to move that this is not complete?
let me, do we even have to do that? I mean, is it?
I mean, that's the way I would, I don't know how you usually do it.
You have to, yes.
Okay, all right, so
The clock
I'll take a
starts.
motion on that.
Okay, so I move that the Tarak okay application, 364 Lee Avenue is not complete for the reasons stated.
Second by Dr. Gerwitz. Roll call, please.
Mayor Mignon,
Yes.
Councilman Freda,
Yes.
Mr. Arakalian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Dr. Gerwitz,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan.
Yes.
Okay, so that next meeting would be the 9th, and then we'll make the, reach out and make those recommendations as to him not only being here, but
Yep.
clarification.
Please, yep. Okay. So let me go through my paperwork.
Who's next, Kang?
Good start.
All right, so before we go to our regular session to discuss the historic preservation, just a little housekeeping. As I mentioned a little while ago, I want to get us back to, even though we're one board hearing both zoning issues and planning issues, we should still to be able to delineate which is a planning issue and which is a zoning issue, particularly when we get to where the potential is for a variance, so the two of you don't have to show up and sit in the audience all night. So I'm going to work with our professionals on that, and I'm going to ask Tom that you work with our zoning officer to figure out who's going to deal with what. And if it's the zoning officer that has to appear here, he'll know ahead of time that he has to be here. Okay?
Mr. Burns, maybe you know, and I'm not going to force the board, but I think if you see any seminars or 2-hour courses on zoning and C1,
Yeah.
C2, and D, I think it would be very beneficial to
It
the
would,
members.
absolutely,
There's the
because we're all new
NJTO
to this.
class that everyone has to take, and there's the ones supported. I know I missed the initial meeting that the board first had in mind, but if it would help the board have another overview of refresher, a work session, I think you can provide that.
I don't think a lot of the members would be familiar with some of the specifics with the zoning versus what we've dealt with on the planning side.
Sure.
And I thank goodness we have three professionals here that know what they're
No, it never hurts. to
I agree,
refresh.
and I would certainly, I would like to attend it myself. You can never stop learning. I want to direct everybody's attention to a letter that the board received from Gregory Mascaritolo. He's an attorney. He's also the neighbor to Mr. Kang. Kang, you might remember the application is on the corner of Howland and Kinderkamak Road. and they had come in for relief on a condition that was approved about 20 years ago in a subdivision. That got tabled at the request of the applicant. It is continued tabled at this moment and for this meeting. But obviously you see that the neighbor has an objection, and he's asking for a change in their request. I've spoken to both Mr. Caratello and the attorney for the applicant, and I've asked them to try to work through their differences. This is kind of what they've come up with, but I don't know if it's something that the board would be...
I don't like the idea of them negotiating outside the board. Present your plan and we
Right.
vote on it.
And
It's not going to be a menu of choices here. And to this point, I don't even know if this should have been distributed. To me, this is testimony, and he's acting as a planner in some of these statements here. So, am I correct? So
Yes.
I think that the petition even gets submitted. You can't submit testimony by a letter.
And you have to have the opportunity to cross-examine, ask questions,
Yes.
that the
Right, no, and I don't think this was sent to be testimony. I think it was just sent as just a letter to the board, an arbitrary letter.
It's more than that. 'Cause he's
Yeah, no, it is, and I've
And I'm
spoken
not
to him
disagreeing
about
with that he may have valid concern, but I'm saying, but the process and the submission is not what
So,
is consistent with
what,
what you're saying.
and as it was left, and Brian, Mr. Chakowski and myself spoke at this at great length, the way it was left is, present your plan, and we'll let you know if this is something we're in agreement with. We're not going to, as the mayor said, we're not going to negotiate, we're not going to hold the jury, so to speak. Submit the plan and either what you came in with or what you're going to come in with. And we'll let you know if there's something the board is interested in.
And I don't know if we can say this now, but I think this should be referred back to the Historic Commission. They haven't looked at this particular site in 20-plus years. That was the crux of the original approval. And since Ms. Angela was still chairperson, she would remember what happened then versus what happens now. So I think and by code, we're supposed to send all the applications to them anyway, but I don't think they generally get that.
Or they can read them.
All right, so can you make a note?
So,
That we
is that
set
form of a
separate copy of
motion
this
or a suggestion?
application.
A suggestion,
Well, as the mayor rightly pointed out, they should receive a copy of the application. So I'm going to instruct our attorney to do so. And if they have comments, they'll be invited to the meeting and be able to...
I think we should ask them what their current position is with regard to this property, period.
Yes. Okay.
and that needs to be done prior to the November 9th meeting, because that's where we're carrying this to, for that additional notice.
I don't think the commission will meet before then,
Okay.
but I just think that they should just let the board know here, again, it wasn't considered historic at that time. Is that still their same designation? Is this a house that they see as one of it being a need to preserve or not? I think there's a lot of other questions.
Well, what you can certainly do is this will be adjourned to the November 9th meeting. You can continue it at that meeting and then raise some of these issues and say that it will be further tabled until you get this determination from the Historic Commission.
Is that good for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now, nobody's representing this applicant right now?
Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Barrett is.
No, I understand that, but
No.
it's on today's
It's
agenda.
no, well, it's actually not.
No, he's going over correspondence.
I'm just I'm only speaking of the correspondence, and the only reason I had this copied to everybody
I see.
is not for testimony purpose. It's just an FYI purpose that this is what the...
You got him under old business.
No, but this
Well, it's
is
an old business
correspondence.
because it was an application that was previously started before the board. It's being adjourned to November 9th, and that's the
Right.
announcement that we'll make. So I
And
think
it's
that's
continued
probably why it was
carry.
there.
Okay.
I appreciate you getting information out, Mr. Chairman, but I think next time when a resident sends a letter, we should let Brian decide if it should be disseminated or not.
Okay, we did speak about it.
Okay.
But yes, I agree. Okay, so,
So just a notification for the public that this matter will be adjourned to the November 9th meeting of the board.
That is
No
correct.
new notice.
Question? November 9th is going to be a regular meeting?
They're all regular meetings.
Is there also a work session associated with that?
Yeah, they're considered work session and regular meetings. All the meetings were changed over last year.
Right, so
to that.
my only other question is, will there be any devariances on the meeting so that we have, no, okay, so we'll have a full panel, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right, so,
I ask only because you don't want to have absent some members of the board because we're listening to a devariance that night, and I wasn't sure if anything was going to get put on that agenda.
no, there's nothing on our agenda that requires a variance at this time.
Well, I know there was a carry, and I didn't know if it would show up again.
Oh, you're talking about
Sanducci's.
Sanducci's.
So I just didn't know if that was going to wind up getting put on, and you're carrying it to a date where
We haven't
the
been
mayor-
notified by them
Okay.
what their intention is. I just received something tonight. I haven't even opened it yet. Says it was dropped off this afternoon, so I guess I'll take a peek at it. I don't know what they want.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but Dr., but I guess what I would suggest, if that does happen, that the chairman work with the secretary, put the C variances first,
Okay.
so we can be here, or vice versa. It's probably easier to have those first, but then we leave.
No, I agree. I was just thinking I didn't want to
Happen.
carry it if we didn't have to not have you
You know,
here.
we haven't been able to get on a rhythm, because I think originally I envisioned this also, you would probably handle most planning applications at one meeting and then try to do the residents at the second meeting, because you don't want a resident sitting here 3 hours
Right.
to get a fence approved. So we really haven't gotten in that kind of a rhythm. Maybe next year.
Yeah, it's been a difficult challenge,
It's
of
just
course.
a start.
Yep.
We have a brand new clerk
It's appreciated.
just came on.
It's a valid point.
All right, so, do we want to open this regular meeting? Yeah. So I'll take a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay. Welcome to the 8 o'clock meeting, 8:30,
A little late.
of the regular planning board meeting. And we'll get a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Mignon,
Here.
Councilman Aquafredo,
Present.
Mr. Eric Hellion,
Here?
Ms. Boland. Here. Dr. Gerwitz.
Yep.
Mr. Merman.
Here.
Mr. Grasso.
Here.
Mr. Capson.
Okay, you should have all received a copy of the historic plan that was put together by our past planner. It's somewhere here. Oh, these are, that's it, I think I want to see, okay. So this was put together back on June 30th, 2015 by the Borough Planner Bridget Bogart. And it was a historic preservation element to the addition to the master plan. And for some reason, it slipped through the cracks and we never really got it.
No, there were procedural errors that invalidated the adoption,
Okay.
so, 2 times.
So we're here tonight to,
To correct that defect.
okay.
And, you know, I know Mr. Barron did not prepare this, but if you would maybe be able to offer an overview just for the record.
Sure, that, I do have somewhat of a recollection when it was first introduced in 2015, which, at the time the board had reviewed, and I believe it was the board's intention to adopt it at that time, and then, as was mentioned, we're reviewing it again, so the board had that option tonight. I do recall, Ms. Bogart worked closely with the Borough's Historic Commission in, preparing the various elements of this report. And, as the title states, it does become an element of the master plan, but basically, it becomes a policy document that helps to guide the borough in its policy decisions and the various land use, now the land use board in its decision making with regard to whether or not any proposed development might impact, the various selected sites that need to have some sort of, historic value. And so, with regard to the report, it does have some specific goals, again, to facilitate the protection of those identified sites as being historically significant. And there is an inventory of those specific sites. Several of them are located at called the New Bridge Landing area where the Rock Scuba House is. The New Bridge itself is part of that. The River Edge Borough Hall is also part of that. There are some granite blocks on Lincoln Ave and Webb Ave. I believe that refers to the public table. There are those kiosks at the intersection of Voorhees and Kinnickinnick and Manning and Kinnickinnick, which I believe served as gateways to those subdivisions when they were first developed in the community. The entrance signs at Clarendon Court in Kinnickinnick, Washington Springs Advance on Park, and the house located at 788 Kinnickinnick Road. And at the appendix of the report also discusses, or lists rather, some other historically significant properties, but they're not listed in the inventory, and so they wouldn't be impacted per se in terms of a particular property owner having to adhere to certain regulatory controls with regard to what they could or couldn't do with their property or building at this point. But these specific ones are protected, the ones that I just went through. There's about 13 of them on page 9. And so, given my familiarity with the borough and having looked at the report, it's my understanding that nothing has changed that would dictate that has impacted any of these particular sites. Therefore, the board could adopt the document as is.
Just one question. It also looks like they basically embedded our historic preservation ordinance in this also.
It does reference it, and the adoption of the master plan element does have the effect of supporting that ordinance also. But yes, you're correct, the ordinance is also in
Any questions or comments?
Yeah.
Go from the right side.
What is the deficiency? Why are we here tonight?
There were notice errors the first time.
Do-
Deficient notices and lack of notice to certain
Have,
entities.
have we corrected that?
Yes. That's why we had to do it again. The first time they did not hold a public hearing.
Okay,
The second time they were deficient and missing notices.
okay.
This is our third crack at this.
Is this a public hearing then?
It's gonna be, yes.
Yeah, that's why we went to a
It-
regular
it's-
meeting.
It's been announced and published and everything?
So what I can say for the record is, I have an email here from the land use clerk, which indicates that as of October 10th, the following has taken place with regard to this historic preservation element that was on the agenda for tonight's hearing. Copies were emailed to all board members. A notice was sent to the Ridgewood News for publication in the prior Friday's newspaper. It was sent via certified mail, return receipt notices to the following borough administrators as required by statute: Teaneck, Emerson, New Milford, Paramus, Hackensack, and Oradell. And also a copy of the plan itself was sent to the county planning board.
So then this is a public hearing
Correct.
on this agenda item?
Correct.
And the notice itself said that not only is this a public hearing, but that the board will consider a resolution approving this amendment to the
Okay.
plan.
So that's why we're here. That's a deficiency.
Third time's the charm, sorry.
Is this,
Better get it right the third time, all right.
is this gonna put any properties that are listed on here that are not listed as historic are now gonna become
No, they
historic?
have, the commission has to follow the requirements of the ordinance to do that. They would have to make a designation and then go to mayor and council to validate those selections.
And I would assume, I mean, anything listed on here, I mean, that property owner would be notified, I mean,
Yes.
besides the notification in
There's a
general.
whole process, they have to have a public hearing themselves if they're gonna designate a historic house. Their recent efforts to list 2 additional sites, and it's one of these situations where one of the landowners is amenable to it, and the other landowner is not. And one of the things that's stalled that process was that this was never validly adopted.
Oh, okay.
So they're very anxious to get this cleared up, and I think, they'll proceed or not with the other 2 designations. I believe it would come back here anyway at that point. And then that list that Tom mentioned of the 13, it would be 14 or 15 if they designate the other ones, and the council agrees.
Okay, so then you gotta treat this as a public hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, let's finish with us first.
Okay.
Doc, did you have something?
No, sorry, that was literally me cracking my nose.
Okay. No, I've lived through this, so
I'm-
I'm ready to.
I have no comment. I was a signature to the master plan review that recommended this item. That's probably why you're looking at it. And as far as this document in front of me by the planner, I plan to abstain on neither endorsing it nor rejecting it.
No more comments.
Go to the left side. Anybody? Ms. Mullin? Mr. Caslin? Go back to our planner. Anything else you want to add?
At this point, I know there's no one here from the Historic Commission, but I believe they did endorse the plan as is. And really, as the mayor mentioned, it does help to enforce the ordinance because without it, it's sort of class cluster at the moment. So it is sort of vital at this point to maintain the ordinance to adopt the ordinance.
Procedurally, we're all in accordance with what we need today.
Procedurally, according to what I have in front of me with regard to notice, that is correct.
For the
Now, the
record.
only thing that I will say is, I've represented a joint land use board for a number of years, but one thing that I have not done is dealt with a joint land use board approving an amendment to a master plan, and whether or not the mayor and councilman should be participating in that
Yes,
particular
because
one.
we would vote on a regular
You've
master
done that
plan.
before? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, I know that this has been a point of contention, we want to make sure that it passes. If it's been done before, then I
No, there's
defer to
no
that.
exemption from class 1 or class 3
Okay.
for,
Four.
on the, any element of the master plan.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, that's for the procedure, I'd like to entertain a motion to open to the public.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay, seeing that there is nobody here from the public, I will ask for a motion to close the meeting to the public.
Mr. Chairman, can the record reflect that the Historic Commission had no representation at this public hearing?
But to clarify, and no one's going to give testimony, they knew it was on the agenda for this evening, and they knew the document wasn't being changed. So,
I still would like that on the record.
okay.
No problem.
I'll take a motion to close the meeting to the public.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained?
I abstain, as I said.
Okay.
Close the public
No,
hearing.
that's
close the
just...
public
Oh, close that, okay.
You can think that I know it's
Oh,
okay.
yeah, real serious.
It's obvious my mind is elsewhere, okay?
Okay, so I am prepared to accept the motion on the historic preservation element to the master plan dated June 30th, 2015, prepared by our past planner, Bridget Bogart, to be incorporated into our master plan. Do I have a motion?
Motion as stated.
Dr. Gerwitz, do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Aquafetta?
Yes.
Mr. Arakelian?
Yes.
Ms. Boland?
Yes.
Dr. Gerwitz?
Yes.
Mr. Merman?
Abstain.
Mr. Grasso?
Yes.
Mr. Kessler?
Yes. Motion passed. Hopefully we'll see this back again. All right, so we have meeting set for November 30th. So again, just to remind you that the proper notices have to be made on that.
Of the actual meeting itself, the special
Correct.
meeting.
It might be open with the chairman, but we should have a general opening to the public anyway, so we said we did it. Any other comments? You don't know what to do?
We'll do that now.
Yeah. Have it on the record. You don't want anybody going back and saying the meeting was not.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting to the public for general comments to this board.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Being nobody's here from the public, and it's more procedural, I'll ask for a motion to close the meeting to the public.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstained? Any noes? No?
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
So, November 30th, we will make sure that those proper notices are done.
So again, getting back to Sanducci's, I'm not sure exactly what their plan is. I guess after I read it over, I'll know. The I had instructed our attorney to investigate the ordinance requiring new establishments or new establishments taking over existing establishments for food license. And it was ruled, and after he researched it, it came up that any existing food license that's transferred to a new owner is still required to come before this board for a food license with a site plan. So there has been one applicant that partially filled out an application, it was sent back to him. I would expect that we'll be hearing from them shortly, and that is the place over here on Kennecott Road,
Babylon to the
supermarket there. So they'll be coming in. I've also instructed our zoning officer to keep an eye open, that when somebody comes in for a CO, make sure it's required, if it's a food establishment, make sure they require from now on they come before us, so nobody slips through the cracks.
Don't you have a second one, where Babylon now is becoming?
I have that being investigated.
Okay.
Okay, because if it's the existing owner and they just changed the type of restaurant, then it's not required.
Okay.
Only if it's changing hands or changing from one LLC to the other or so forth. It's not.
If an existing business moves within town, is the food license on the property or on the business?
The food license would be on the property.
I'm saying, so just for clarification, if a restaurant moves locations, they can't transfer their food license from one location to another?
That is correct. It kind of follows the same.
We don't issue the license for help.
Right.
But I'm saying, but they would have to come before us, is what I'm saying.
They would have to come before us for a new location. That's correct.
What I'm saying.
And if it's an existing location and with new ownership, they have to come before us too. Basically, from talking to our attorney, the litmus test is if they require a new CO, they require to come before us.
I think the gray area is whether you require a full site plan in some cases or not.
But that's what I was wondering, yeah.
I mean, if you're in a strip mall, maybe show the survey or things like show the layout of the table, so you know how many seats are in there and in the parking.
In the park.
Something else, which is maybe, larger or reconstruction, would probably want a full site plan.
And I'm not exactly sure why the ordinance was adopted, but I think it's a great ordinance for us. It gives us an opportunity to look at something that may not have been kept up to borough standards and brought up to borough standards in the future. So I think it's a really strong tool for the borough. I'm very happy that we have this tool at our disposal to be able to use it. So at least that one, and we'll see what happens to the other. Sometimes these things, when they change hands, they don't bother coming back for a certificate of occupancy. They figure they could just sell off and whatever. But I do have our zoning officer keeping a closer eye on that. And the same thing with signs. People arbitrarily just putting up signs without coming before the board. So he's working on that as well as also with the Borough Code Enforcement Officer. So that's just the update that I have for everybody. Is there anything else that anybody wants to discuss? I apologize, we didn't get a chance to meet you tonight. Filling in for Carol, your name is?
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming tonight. Is there anybody else that has anything before the board?
Do you want me to sign these, or do you have copies?
No, there's copies here that I've already signed. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? I'm sure not.